There's a truly singular feeling about driving those Highland Roads in northern Scotland, isn't there?
Oh, definitely.
This immense solitude, just, you're surrounded by this wild, dramatic landscape stretching out forever.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky, maybe a fleeting glimpse of something truly wild.
It's a place where you really feel the immediate presence of nature.
Yeah. Which perfectly sets the stage for what we're diving into today. The red deer and the roe deer of the Scottish Highlands.
Mm-hmm.
More than just animals, these are captivating creatures that really embody the spirit of that rugged wilderness.
They absolutely do.
We've got a fascinating piece here, Encounters on the Highland Roads, seeing roe and red deer in northern Scotland. It's by Chris Taklis from Merman Conservation Expeditions, written just this May of 2025.
Right.
Think of this deep dive as your personal roadmap if you're planning, say, a journey from Inverness up to Durness and want to keep an eye out for these magnificent animals.
Our goal is, well, to go beyond just the surface of this document. We want to really explore the key information it offers about these deer, their behavior,
Right.
and most importantly, the best times and places to observe them along this specific route. We're aiming for those moments where things click,
Yeah, those surprising insights that deepen your appreciation.
Exactly.
Okay, let's start by unpacking this journey itself. The drive from Inverness to Durness. It's not a simple point A to point B, is it? It's a real shift in environment.
It really is. The author does a great job outlining how you begin in the more populated areas around Inverness, but relatively quickly you find yourself on the A9 and then transitioning to more remote roads like the A836, ultimately leading to the A838.
And that progression towards those less traveled routes is, well, it seems crucial.
It is. Because as you head further north, the article points out something quite remarkable. The human presence just recedes.
Yeah, fewer villages.
The lights at night completely disappear, and even getting a mobile phone signal becomes, well, a challenge.
I'm curious, does the article give any sense of how quickly that transition happens as you drive north?
It's surprisingly rapid, actually. The author emphasizes that within a relatively short distance of Inverness, you start to notice a significant decrease in settlements and infrastructure.
Wow.
And what's fascinating here is the direct impact this has on the wildlife. This reduction in human activity creates a more natural environment, especially during the night.
Right.
The article highlights how the absence of artificial light, in particular, allows animals to move around much more freely than they might in more populated areas.
It really paints a picture of this vast, almost untouched landscape. You can almost sense that feeling of openness just reading about it.
Absolutely.
Now, let's turn our attention to the first of our main subjects, the red deer. The author refers to them as lords of the glen, which feels incredibly apt.
It does, doesn't it? They are Scotland's largest native land mammal, and they possess a real grandeur.
Yeah.
The piece rightly emphasizes their iconic status, their deep connections to Scottish folklore, and, of course, their importance in ongoing conservation efforts.
And physically, they are truly impressive. I mean, we're talking about adult males weighing in at over 190 kilograms.
It's huge.
And then there are those absolutely magnificent antlers.
Yes, those massive antlers, which incredibly are shed and then regrown each year. The fascinating biological process.
Driven by hormones, right?
Exactly. Hormonal changes. The article notes that their primary habitat is open moorlands and upland areas, and you'll often observe them in groups.
Oh, okay.
That should be a truly breathtaking sight.
And when it comes to their behavior, a couple of key aspects really stand out, don't they? The autumn rut being a particularly notable one.
That's right. The author mentions the haunting roars of the stags during the rut that's the breeding season.
That unique sound.
Yes, when males compete for females as they compete for mates, it's a sound that really defines the autumn in the Highlands. Then, as the weather grows colder and food becomes scarcer at higher elevations, they tend to move down to lower areas in search of sustenance.
Which can bring them closer to roads.
Precisely. Closer to human settlements in those roads we're discussing.
So if you're hoping to catch a glimpse of these lords of the glen along this Inverness to Durness route, when and where are your best chances?
The article provides quite specific guidance. Generally, early morning and dusk are the most favorable times, as is common with many large mammals.
Right, the crepuscular activity.
Exactly. However, what's particularly interesting is the emphasis on potential nighttime encounters.
Ah, because of the lack of light pollution.
Just that. Given the minimal light pollution in these regions, red deer are more inclined to venture onto roadsides under the cover of darkness.
And they're big enough to spot?
Well, their substantial size and those reflective eyes make them surprisingly noticeable in headlights, even in the dark.
Okay, good to know. So keeping a careful watch at night could be rewarding. Now let's shift our focus to their smaller, more elusive cousins, the roe deer.
Yes.
The author aptly calls them the watchful wanderers.
That description really captures their essence. They're considerably smaller than red deer, typically weighing between, 10 and 25 kilograms.
Tiny in comparison.
Very. The author's description of them as slender and graceful, with short antlers on the males, large, expressive eyes, and that distinctive white patch on their rump. It perfectly portrays their delicate appearance.
And their behavior is quite different from the red deer, isn't it? They tend to be more solitary and much more secretive.
Precisely. They have a preference for the edges of woodlands and areas with dense shrubbery. The article highlights their exceptional alertness.
Right.
They rely heavily on remaining still and their natural camouflage to avoid being detected.
So spotting them is a very different experience compared to the more conspicuous red deer.
Totally different. More of a quiet thrill, perhaps.
So when and where are you most likely to experience one of these more magical encounters with a roe deer during this journey?
Dawn and dusk are again prime times, particularly during the summer months when there are longer periods of twilight.
Exactly.
The author specifically points to the area north of Lairg as you head towards Durness, as a region where you might catch a glimpse of them emerging from dense thickets or maybe foraging along the verges of the road.
It sounds like a real treat when you do manage to spot one. The article mentions their elusiveness, but also that fleeting moment when they might freeze in headlights.
Yes, that sudden stillness. While potentially dangerous for them, of course, it can offer a perfect, though brief, view for the observer.
It really underscores their instinct to freeze when they feel threatened or startled.
Absolutely, a key survival tactic.
So to bring this all together in a practical sense for someone planning this drive, where specifically should they be extra vigilant and at what times of day?
Okay, practicalities. The article really pinpoints the stretch of road between Lairg and Durness, so that's the A838 and the smaller connecting roads, as prime deer spotting territory.
Right, the really remote part.
Exactly. Areas near lochs like Loch Shin and Loch Erebol. Also, the edges of forests, clearings, and open moorland are highlighted too.
And timing.
Timing. Dawn and dusk are key for both species. Nighttime significantly increases your chances of seeing red deer along the roadsides.
And seasons matter too.
They do. Seasonally, during winter, food scarcity can drive deer lower, making them more visible. And of course, autumn is the red deer rut.
Right, more activity then.
So their increased activity makes them more frequently seen.
And there are definitely some important practical tips to keep in mind to maximize your chances of seeing them without causing any disturbance, right?
Absolutely essential. The author emphasizes the critical importance of driving slowly and remaining extremely vigilant.
Especially around bends and hills.
Particularly as you approach bends in the road and the crests of hills where visibility might be limited. Use your full beams when it's safe and legal.
Help spot the eye shine.
Exactly, that reflective glow. But it's absolutely essential to dim them immediately if you do see deer to avoid disorienting them.
Good point.
And if you decide to stop to observe, always pull over safely. A designated lay-by or a wide verge, making sure you're completely off the road.
And keep quiet.
Keep noise to an absolute minimum to avoid scaring them. Simple respect, really.
Now let's delve a little deeper into the unique experience of driving at night in this particular part of the world. It sounds quite unlike driving in most other places.
It truly is a distinctive experience. The article beautifully describes how, as you travel north of Inverness, those familiar artificial lights gradually just disappear altogether. The stretch of the journey from Lairg to Durness is specifically mentioned as being almost entirely devoid of street lights, settlements.
And even other cars sometimes.
Exactly. Very little traffic.
So you're essentially immersed in this near total darkness, with the only sources of light being the stars overhead and, naturally, your own headlights.
Precisely. And it's within this environment that wildlife activity really comes to the forefront. The author notes how deer, particularly during the winter and spring months, seem to venture onto the roads with a greater sense of confidence under the cloak of darkness.
Interesting.
You might just catch the eerie glint of their eyes reflecting in your lights from the side of the road. Or, and the article vividly recounts this, you might suddenly encounter an entire herd seemingly materializing out of the darkness.
Wow, just standing there.
Standing there silently in the stillness.
It paints a picture of these incredibly intimate and quiet encounters, a genuine feeling of being in a truly wild place, something that's becoming increasingly rare in many parts of Europe.
It really is.
I'm curious, does the article offer any insights into why deer might feel more confident venturing out at night in these specific dark areas compared to more lit environments?
Well, the author suggests it's a combination of factors. The lack of artificial light reduces their wariness, you see. It eliminates a common sign of human presence and activity.
Oh,
Plus, the quieter roads with less traffic contribute to a safer environment for them to move around and forage, especially during times when food might be scarce away from the roadside.
it's a fascinating glimpse into how wildlife adapts to and utilizes its environment. But the author also includes a really crucial word of caution, doesn't he?
Oh, yes. Very important.
Regarding the very real risk of deer-vehicle collisions, it's a stark reminder that while these encounters can be magical, safety must always be the top priority.
Absolutely. Driving with extreme caution, particularly in areas where deer warning signs are posted, is absolutely essential.
Which leads us to a really vital point. How can we best enjoy these opportunities to observe wildlife responsibly and ethically?
This is paramount. The author rightly emphasizes that observing wild deer is a privilege, and with that privilege comes a significant responsibility.
Responsibility for their well-being and our safety.
Exactly. The guidelines are quite clear. You should never attempt to approach or feed the deer. Ever.
Maintain distance.
Always maintain a respectful and safe distance. Binoculars or a telephoto lens are invaluable tools here. If you wish to stop and observe, always ensure you pull over safely into a designated lay-by or a wide verge,
Completely off the road.
making absolutely sure you are not obstructing the road in any way. Reduce your speed significantly, especially during nighttime hours.
And respect the signs.
Always be mindful of and respect any warning signs or temporary closures that might be in place, like in specific wildlife management zones. And of course, always remember to leave no trace.
Take your litter home.
Take all litter with you,
Eh?
and be careful to avoid trampling any vegetation or disturbing their habitat. Basic stuff, but so important.
It truly boils down to demonstrating respect for these incredible animals and the fragile environment they inhabit.
Well said. So as we bring this deep dive into Chris Taklis's insights to a close, what are the key takeaways for anyone contemplating this journey through the Northern Highlands?
Okay, key takeaways. Firstly, to truly appreciate the unique opportunity this drive offers for those silent, often unexpected encounters with both the majestic red deer and the more elusive roe deer. We've highlighted the grandeur of the red deer, the subtle charm of the roe deer, and the most promising times and locations along the route to hopefully witness them.
And crucially,
And fundamentally, we've stressed the critical importance of observing them responsibly to ensure the continued health and vitality of these wild populations.
it really prompts you to consider, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The article concludes with a thought-provoking point about the significance of these relatively undisturbed encounters with large mammals in modern Europe.
Yeah, what does their presence tell us?
What does their continued presence in this landscape tell us about the land itself and our relationship with it? It's a fascinating and important consideration, this delicate balance between our desire to experience the wild
Hmm.
and the absolute necessity of protecting it.
Precisely. It's certainly something to reflect on during your own journeys, whether they take you through the Scottish Highlands or, wherever your explorations might lead.